From El Centro College. Thankfully, both of those officers are now at home. 2 civilians were also hurt, including a mother who was wounded while she protected her sons from the gunfire.
Police officers had started coming up the block, and one of them, I heard him when he said, "Is anybody hit?" My son said no, because he didn't know I was shot. And I was saying yes, but I wasn't saying it loud enough so my son could hear me, because I didn't want him to hear me. And the officer said it again kind of loud, and I said, "Yes, sir, I'm hitting my leg." And the other officer jumped on top of me and covered me and my son. And there was another one at our feet, and there was another one over our head. And there was several of them lined against the wall over there, and they stayed there with us. And I saw another officer. Saw another officer get shot right there in front of me again. That was 2.
Powerful, moving, and tragic, showing us what those police officers do each and every day. Joining us now, Steve Rogers, a former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force and a retired lieutenant commander with the Office of Naval Intelligence. Steve, thanks for joining us. As we await to hear from the Dallas police chief, talk with us a little bit about some of the key questions that you have at this stage now in the investigation.
Well, many of the questions are going to be centering around where did he get the weapons, where did he get the explosives, where did he get the training, which may have been in the U.S. military. There's questions regarding if there was anyone else involved with him, especially in the planning stage. And what does RB mean? Now, RB, the letters that he put on the wall with his blood could be a goodbye, my love type thing, or there could be something else involving those 2 letters. So they're going to need to connect all these dots. And how they're going to do this, they're going to scour over his social media accounts. They're going to look at his cell phone, at his computers. And that's when you do the forensic study of all this evidence, and you're going to be able to at least connect some dots and hopefully be led to a conclusion of this investigation.
Well, from what we know right now, do you believe that anybody else could have been involved with this, that he could have been planning this with the assistance of anyone else?
I believe that's possible, but I got to tell you, what hasn't been talked about is what he was doing in the Army. There had to be someone before he got discharged who saw some unusual behavior, erratic behavior. I cannot believe, me being a career military person, that his superior officers didn't have any questions about his behavior.
But Steve, I mean, no offense to anyone who has served bravely in our U.S. military, but he was a private first class. He was with the Masonry unit. He was in Afghanistan, but from what we've read so far, there have been no examples of him actually even leaving the base, and has been, behind the wire the entire time.
Well, that's right. And, he served the country, yes, but it goes back to if you see something, say something. Look, it's like when police officers go awry, when they run into problems that they shouldn't run into. You got to know their sergeants, their lieutenants, their superiors knew something. But all this will come out in the investigation as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, talk with us a little bit about the weapons that he had. He was apparently experimenting with some sort of explosives or detonation at his home. Do we know if these weapons were legally obtained at this point? Any information about that?
No information about that, other than I can tell you this, that based on the amount of weapons, he was ready for war. He was ready for combat. And I've said all along, and it was confirmed a couple days ago, that this was not his intended target, in my view, that he was looking to do something else, probably more catastrophic. But it was a crime, or a terrorist attack in this case, of convenience. He took advantage of the march. He decided that this would be the time and place that he was going to execute the operation that he had planned.
Steve, I'm just trying to think how on earth police officers go about doing their jobs where they're protecting First Amendment rights of people who are out there protesting, but yet they still manage to protect themselves. How do you strike a balance between the 2?
That's why we call them heroes. They go out and do their job every day. It is very, very difficult. But the woman that you just had on, the victim of the shooting, she has done more to heal wounds in this country than any of the rhetoric we've heard. She's out there telling the world about how these police officers covered her from being killed. And that's the kind of things that will help heal wounds and help cops do their job. As a police officer, my heart goes out for her. So I could imagine the police officers that just saw what you had on your TV screens here, and we know we have to come together. And I've said all along that we got to get the clergy involved. We have a God above that we have to depend on for guidance and wisdom. And when I say we, I mean, the black community and the police community.
Steve, such a good point about how she has perhaps done more to heal our nation when we haven't necessarily heard that from some of our top leaders. I do want to ask you about where he lived in Mesquite, Texas. There are some indications that he may have lived with his mom. Any responsibility that she would potentially have, or anybody would have, if you're living under the same roof as somebody who's plotting some sort of attack?
Yes, there is. Look, it's tough for a mother, a father, or anyone who maybe they go into denial, but if you see what a lot of people are now talking about, this type of combat training he was doing in his backyard, somebody had to see him coming in and out with some of these weapons. We all have a responsibility to protect this country. As hard as it is at times, even when it involves our own relatives, we have a responsibility to stand up, to speak out. If you see something, say something.
Well, you know, it certainly sounds like his behavior was bizarre, to say the least. We know he was doing some sort of drills in his backyard. But, I mean, what does somebody even do? They pick up the phone, call the police, and say, hey, next door neighbor or my son is doing drills, running around like a commando? I mean, I can't imagine that police would take that very seriously.
Well, in this environment, they would. I could tell you this. I was on a Fox broadcast the other night. Not an hour afterwards, when we talked about if you see something, say something, I got a very extensive email, credible information with evidence to back it up, that's now in the hands of the FBI. This person was concerned. Are you going to give them my name? Absolutely not. People need to know that. You could remain anonymous, but make the call. You may save a life.
Well, make the call. You have to just hope that the FBI is going to take you seriously, or that local police are. As we saw in Orlando, that quite frankly didn't happen, at least not to the point where it could save those people's lives.
Lessons learned.
Steve Rogers, thank you so much as we await to hear from that police commissioner in Dallas.
You're welcome.
Thanks.